So hello everyone, it's lovely to have you here at the lockdown stage, and a really warm welcome to those of us who are watching us on YouTube. I'm Jenny Pagden, and it's my privilege to bring you poets together tonight. Such an amazing list. I really appreciate all of you for joining this. And it came about because I've been missing live poetry events since the pandemic. So I definitely want to thank all of you for making this evening possible. Let's dive straight in to the first performance. So Sue Burge is a freelance creative writing and film studies tutor based in a village just outside Cromer in Norfolk. Her poems have been published extensively in online and paper journals and a wide range of anthologies. Her debut pamphlet, Lumiere, with Hedgehog Poetry Press, and her first collection in the Kingdom of Shadows with Live Canon, both came out in autumn 2018. Over to you, Sue.
Hi everybody, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you to Jenny for organising this. I'm going to be reading a poem called Scapegoat. Scapegoat. A witch walks in a forest, dank and deep as famine ache, where children are left to die like kittens in a sack. The forest has many ways, some straight, some narrow, some false, of mudslick, leaf crush, pebbles, breadcrumbs. A witch walks in a forest where a girl might step from the path to squeeze juice from nettles, ooze from mistletoe, chew chokeberries with her long yellow teeth. The forest has sealed itself in, canopy heavy as a coffin lid, away from raven caw and thunder voice, frost crack and lightning bite. A witch walks in a forest, dragging her dark tatters, reaches its dense, briared belly, hears the beat of old hearts, beech, oak, hawthorn. This is where the stories are, scavenged from dark, thorn-held visions, an abundance of rings, a worn red shoe, a rolling crimson apple, one throat-shaped bite taken from its flesh. This is where rumours are birthed and rise like wood smoke, whispering of plague, difference, fear. A witch walks in a forest, sips her own spiced saliva, knows how each nest, burrow and borehole holds its particular dormant alchemy. A witch walks in a forest, not woman, not wife, not daughter. She shapeshifts, tries feather, hide, fur, settles on goat, eyes like slit topaz, stakes herself to the forest floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. That was haunting. Thank you so much for starting us. I'm going to take us into the next reader now, the poet Helen Akers. Helen is a graduate of the Poetry MA course at the UEA, and she is working towards a collection which explores the experience of mental ill health, specifically bipolar disorder.
Thank you, Jenny. And again, thank you for organising this. It's really wonderful to be part of this tonight. This poem is called Interview. Undergoing an interview is a common occurrence in the environment of mental ill health or ill health in general. And so this is one of a series of poems I've written on this subject, exploring the often surreal kind of tone and line of questioning that occurs within the interview. Interview. Are you able to swallow? Are you able to follow a sequence of things, like making a pizza? You say there have been no changes. What sandwiches do you eat? When was this diagnosed? Any adaptations? These symptoms, are they there all the time or do they vary? These thoughts, are they there all the time? Do you make them uncomfortable? Are you given to wandering off? Do you avoid the apple tree? When you have appointments, do you go on your own? Can you go on your own? Would you have been able to come here today on your own? Do you look at the dark at the base of the apple? Does it deepen when you look at it? Do you draw a line where the table ends? Does it dissolve? Are you titrating slowly? Do you feel extremely happy with your girlfriend and your life? Is the fence loud? Does your doctor know? These apples, are they there all the time? Do you know what you are for? Can it be taught? Were you born? Would you describe it as bracing? Do you think this language is yours? Can you use this feature? Can you peel this poem? Have you swallowed the core? I'm speaking now. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Helen. That was mesmerising. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to introduce our next poet, who is Jane Wilkinson. Jane is published in numerous magazines and anthologies, including Magma, Ink, Sweat and Tears, Envoy, Fenland Read, Finished Creatures, and with Emma Press and Live Canon. She won the Against the Grain competition in 2019, and in 2020 was placed both first and second in the Guernsey Literary Festival Poetry Prize, and won first place in the Strokestown International Poetry Prize. Jane, would you read for us, please?
Thank you so much, Jenny. Lovely to be here. I'm going to read a poem called Lady Bower. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's the name of the lowest and the largest of three connected landscape reservoirs in the hills in the Peak District. And they provide the drinking water for most of the people in the northwest, including the village neighbouring the reservoir where my husband's family used to live. And this poem is about my father-in-law. Lady Bower. That I could give him back to you, so you would find him in your wardrobe, warming his tweed jacket, blowing his nose on a fresh handkerchief from your drawer. You would see him as geometry, a straight line in the ghost shadows. If the folded sheet of cloud laid out across this watery sky could release him in a shower of small parts, as something we could piece together between us, like a jigsaw. I should have gone to see his body, the living, all vertical as the dam walls, absorbing the light like summer leaves in tall beechwoods. He lay uncovered, milk turning in the parlour. Out in the afternoon darkness, the valley is hardly able to bear the huge weight of the reservoir. Gold leaves are spinning on the surface. Its black depths are poured into a glass of tap water. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I love that image at the end with the tap water. So I'm going to introduce our next poet, Sarah Passingham. Sarah started to write poetry to improve her prose, then found she couldn't stop. Her recent book, the story of how another virus devastated friends and families, is Push, My Father, Polio and Me, which was published in 2019 by Gatehouse Press. Sarah, good to welcome you here.
Thank you so much for asking me, Jenny. I thought I'd read a poem for anybody who's in lockdown with somebody else, because inevitably things get on your nerves. And I have got permission to read this about my husband. It's called We Should Talk About This One Day. about that noise you make when you walk through a room like an outboard motor in need of an engineer, about the way you stand before the mirror now that you've begun to use the gym, about you changing the dashboard controls while I'm driving, about that shirt, you know the one, about your love of cutting things down and my love of letting things grow, about meatloaf, about my need to load the dishwasher, set the thermostats and the boiler, about why I can't stand holidays and you hate the theatre, about your minimalism and my urge to stockpile, about my everyday escape to Ambridge and yours to a bottle of beer, about your fear of failure and mine of success, about our terror of debt, about how you listen to every poem I write and edit every piece of prose, about your allergy to tree pollen, onions, garlic, and the poet's voice, my allergy to eggs, about my history with an alcoholic and yours with a former wife, about Irish Catholicism, you, the Church of England, me, and our secular lives, about my love of mathematics skewed by an arithmetical shortfall, about your grasp of finance and blindness to biology, about when I knew your disappointment and my own, about how this poem feels tender, a testament to the 28 years we've spent together, despite the silences, the stones we've placed on our tongues, the unspat anger, a touching lack of touch, about the 20,000 meals you once calculated that I'd cooked for us and how you've kept us in the black, about our 2 daughters, the 11 cats we've fed and cared for, about how we dovetail, make the cube stronger, complete each other's gaps. The Ice Maiden and the Tin Man. Didn't we surprise our colleagues when we announced our engagement? And possibly ourselves, just a little. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for especially the lines that really stood out to me, such as stones on our tongues. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to move on to Laura. Oh, to Jenny Wong. Jennifer Wong was born and grew up in Hong Kong. Her latest collection is Letters Home with Nine Arches Press 2020, which was named a wildcard choice by Poetry Book Society. Jenny, could you read for us, please?
Thank you very much, Jenny, for organizing this. It's really lovely. You know, it's my pleasure to be with you all. So I'm going to read the poem "The Color of Race," which to me it's triggered by a scene that I used to live in Ealing, and there's this scene that every morning when I wake up, I will see like a lot of people queuing up at 5 a.m. At the bus stop quite near to my home, and I felt that like I wanted to give voice to this group of people. I mean, I don't know them, but I constantly see them going to work and just wanted to investigate what kind of lives they've led. The color of race. It bothers me, this feeling of trespassing, taking certain bus routes from Walthamstow, from Elephant and Castle. Their colorful clothes, their dreadlocks, the curiosity in that young boy's stare, his white teeth when he smiles. I catch one white woman saying to another, I wouldn't like my children growing up here. It's so multicultural. What makes her look away? Why does she tremble? Who are those in parka jackets, waiting in the darkness for the first bus in Hounslow, in Tooting, in Oval? Baristas, cleaners, bus drivers, sales assistants. Lives measured in shifts and toilet breaks. Happiness in the annual leave they take. What about that man in the local chicken shop? He's been frying drumsticks for years and years. Does he ever speak? I know who that Chinese girl is outside Canary Wharf station, handing leaflets to passers-by on a weekend for a few quid. She studies management by day, and in the evening swipes meats and fruits at the counter. But she would stoop for any job in that country, if it means she can stay. Why does the Uber driver tell me his story? He works 7 days a week, has never been to the theatre. In Pakistan, his father is dying. He's saving every penny for his children. Nothing you can't buy with money. He smiles. The cab passes slowly through the streets in Chelsea, disappears into the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you very much for that insight into people's lives. I'm going to introduce our next reader, who is Laura Scott, who won the Geoffrey Dermer Prize in 2015 and the Michael Marks Prize for her pamphlet What I Saw in 2015. Laura was one of the poets featured in Carcanet's New Poetry 7 anthology, and her first collection, So Many Rooms, was published by Carcanet in 2019. Laura, it's great to have you here. Could I ask you to read your poem, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenny, for asking me to be part of this. That's the first thing to say. The second is I'm going to read a poem about Tolstoy. This is the first poem I wrote. I've written a sequence of them, and this is the first one, and it's the first one in my collection as well. Okay, so if I could write like Tolstoy, you'd see a man dying in a field with a flagstaff still in his hands. I'd take you close until you saw the grass blowing around his head and his eyes looking up at the sky. I'd show you a pale-faced Tsar on a horse under a tree, breath from its nostrils, creases in gloved fingers pulling at the reins, perhaps hoof marks in the mud when he jumps the ditch at the end of the field. I'd show you men walking down a road, one of them shouting to the others to get off it. You'd hear the ice crack as they slipped down the bank to join him, bringing their horses with them. You'd feel the blood coming out of the back of someone's head, warm for a moment before it touched the snow. I'd show you a dead man come back to life. Then I'd make you wait for pages and pages before you saw him go to his window and look at how the moon turns half a row of trees black, leaves the other silver. Thank you very much. That's that poem.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you. That image of the blood coming from the head and still warm was very moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to introduce our next reader now, who is Anne Osborne. Anne started writing poetry back in 2004 when she was awarded a National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts Dreamtime Fellowship to spend a year on sabbatical in the School of Literature and Creative Writing at the University of East Anglia. She was shortlisted for the 2017 Flambard Poetry Prize and was third prize winner in the 2018 Sentinel Book Prize competition. And we're very lucky to have you here this evening.
Thanks very much, Jenny. It's great to be here. I'm going to read a poem about a place on the east coast of America called Ogunquit. It's a very, very enigmatic place for anybody who has been there or heard of it. So the poem is called Ogunquit, Maine. It's dusking and the sandy spit did sprawl and spreach into the grold. All fromy was the brimble bit and the griver spored ice gold. Beware the selkie man, my girl, the eyes that fix the fur so sleek. Beware his magic spell and furl that umbrellious tinko beak. He slipped his quartzal flank, was gone from Clastine view, and the brimble shifted eastal bank beneath the grippling who. The girl, she looked and looked for him along the grumbling reach. She turned each bouldering sea shim, no sign of fur or breach. The sandy spit was still and spent, the black run gargling round it. She cried a while in grave assent, her moondrops spilled like gravit. O Selkie man, I yearn your silkling heartstrings, but you have swum into the swam. And she began to sing. She sang there's solely here but me, anchoring on the sandspit, just crabble claws and bladderweed and a trillion quetzal quartz bits. The Selkie man was snorfing out in the great brim bore. He heard the sound of singling and swirned towards the shore. Its dusking and the sandy spit did sprawl and springle in the grold, and out amongst the swavering Brit, 2 heartbeats dived and nosed.
Thank you so much, Anne. That was brilliant. Thank you for being here this evening. I'm going to introduce our next reader now, who is Lorraine Rachel Karyin, a student at the University of Oxford from the city of Hong Kong. Her work has been awarded or recognised in the Oxford Books International Poetry Competition, Outspoken Poetry Prize, and has been published in CHAR, HKFP, HK01 and the Mekong Review, among others. I hope I read those right. Her debut pamphlet was published with the Hedgehog Poetry Press in March 2020. Everybody, Rachel Karyin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenny, for allowing me to be part of this reading. And the poem I'm going to be reading today is called The Summer Critter Speaks Not of Frost. It was recently awarded the Sir Roger Newdigate Prize by the English faculty for the best composition in English verse by an undergraduate at the University of Oxford. And the poem actually turns the Chinese saying, 夏蟲不可語冰, which is roughly meaning an insect that lives only one summer cannot be expected to know what ice is. And it turns this saying on its head to try to express how someone suffering from a mental health issue, it's very hard to see beyond their very real reality, and that imposing some sort of neurotypicality on as the ideal standard may not be the most empathetic towards their experience.
Rachel, can I just ask you if you're able to turn your video on, please?
Yeah, my video is on.
Oh, that's brilliant. I wasn't seeing you, but I am now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the poem is The Summer's Critter Speaks Not of Frost. 夏蟲不可語冰. Do not trespass with perhaps. Do not ponder why the brief critter sheds its days like that. That summer is more of a reprieve than trapping home. That it will try and not find the word for frost. That it does not know at all that the world can stay colder than fire, which is torrid. That you can even drown in the intolerable light. In its streams, white is a figment, and melting is but a tributary of perishable air. I will be lost. I will be impossible, spent like an envelope, singing my eyes shut, always forgetting, always, this duet, a starved type of blue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you. And I'm going to introduce our next reader, who is Sally Festing. Sally's 5 poetry collections have followed journalism, radio plays, academic studies, biographies of Barbara Hepworth and Gertrude Jekyll, and other non-fiction. She's been published in masses of magazines, which you can read about on her website, sallyfesting.info. Sally, if you'll read for us, please. Hello, Sally, if you want to unmute yourself. Oh, I'll do it for you actually through this. Sally, I'm just going to have one more go at unmuting your microphone. Hello, hiya. You're still muted for me. I think it may be my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. I'm going to read two poems, short poems about Burnham Overy Staithe, where I live by the sea, and I've been during lockdown. And it's really an encouragement, and thank you, Jenny, for being so encouraging with us. Swimming lessons. I'm supporting your small upper arms, feeling the force of your kick-away legs, the weight of you riding in space, carved out for your body, carved out in the pool where we sail and walk on warm stones. What are the choices? The past runs away. So much water. My legs, like the flappers of a big white fish, step back as you press on. Strike out your way. Swim. Swim if you can. The other one is about allotments, where my husband has spent many happy hours, especially during lockdown. He took the allotment over from a North Norfolk man who is called Brian Yaxley. When I quote some of his words, they are Brian's words. As a child, I was absolutely intrigued by the allotments. Allotment afternoons. They're at it again, moving like ghosts among the vegetables' green burgeonings. Sheds guttered to plastic water butts, corrugated compost heaps, careful cages, chickens. Their hands are horny. Their smiles say nothing. Allotment holders only, the gate prescribes, a warning to which someone has added, no rabbits. Each plot encompasses 8 rods. Imagine 16 men, the lawful rod, stand heel to toe, their prayers done, the draught of beer and dinner still to come. My father'd come up here with a horse to plough. The path was all close mown. Woe betide him if that horse trod on the path. We'd see some fights on a Saturday afternoon. The sky has tumbled a lot since first I watched them through a screen of trees, capped and lean from toiling in the sun, as if industry could capture time itself. Bikes piled high to take the booty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sally. That was fantastic. Thank you. I really enjoyed those. Brilliant. And if I could introduce our next reader, we're going to be hearing from Julia Webb. Julia is a poetry editor for Lighthouse. Her second collection, Threat, was published by Nine Arches Press in 2019. Do get hold of it if you don't have a copy. Julia, we'll go across to you now, please.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me all right? Thank you so much for organising this. It's really great to hear everyone read. I'm going to read a poem from a sequence I'm writing about mothers, and this is one of the first poems in the sequence. Prayer for the Lack. My mother was the prayer of the empty chair, the empty jumper sleeve. She said I was the pith of the Jaffa oranges she ate while she was pregnant. The distance between us was so big that nothing could cross it. She was already running towards death with her arms open, but neither of us knew it. My mother, my beautiful prayer flag of a mother, how could I not hold her? Her bag was so heavy, her lake was so wide. We couldn't see to the other side of each other. We broke ourselves on each other's shore. How many stubborn days did we lose? Lightning flashed right down between us, but we were oblivious to its warning. My electric mother, my electric prayer, my electric mother, who fused the plugs with her very presence. I was her socket with the broken switch. I was her potential and all her disappointments. My mother made a prayer of shame, but she was a prayer of survival, a lost place, ripe for revisiting. My mother, proud as nothing, my beautiful mother, she made a prayer of my name. I was on my mother's lips like a kiss. I was soft grease waiting to be licked off. Oh mother, oh orange lightning bolt, how many days do you plan to stay dead? This is a prayer for the space she left. This is a prayer for the bones of her.
Thank you, Julia. That was wonderful. That was really good. And I'm pleased to say that we have plenty of time if people are able to stay and read a second poem. I would find that wonderful. So if anybody needs to know, needs to leave rather, just either do so or let me know through the chat, and that's fine. But for those who can make it, I'd like us to loop back round to Sue and ask for a second poem, please.
Okay, so this poem was written, it was the first poem I wrote almost on the first day of lockdown. And as we're standing on the lockdown stage, I thought I should read this one really. I live in a little village just outside Cromer, where I've spent an awful lot of time in the last few weeks. So this is called With Love from Lockdown. I think I may grow to love this place, like a groupie with Stockholm syndrome. See how the pond thickens with spawn, how the frog's roiling orgy creates the slow TV of full stop to comma. I think the spiders will multiply now, surprised by our sudden stillness, wanting to fill our cleaned corners with their mysteries. I think there are underground movements we have yet to discover, sly mobs waiting to rise and scooter around our naivety. I think I will make nettle soup, catch them young. It will last for days, coating my cold, redundant tongue. I think all the dogs are twitching through anxiety dreams where they wake up and there's no one to throw their spitty balls. I think the stars can see us again, or rather we can see them, or so we think, long dead blinks in the newly night sky. I think I'll learn to breathe easy again, step out and part the air like Moses. One day there will be safe passage. I think the road markings will be next to go, that the verges have always known how to creep, blade by blade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was great. And I'd like to reintroduce or call back to the stage Helen, please.
Thank you, Jenny. This is a poem from a series I've been writing about beds in the context of illness or the lack of beds within the health system, and exploring ideas around this. This is called Amber Bed, after the artist Rachel Whiteread. The empty space beneath the bed is slumped against the wall. The floor is black, the wall is white, breeze blocks. The empty space beneath the bed is amber. Her skin is scuffed, and there are traces of pressure on her ribs. The edges of her nothingness are sore. Her eyes are black holes where her legs once stood. She speaks. I am reversed inside out. I am the evidence of absence. Think of air solidified. I am the surface detail of the overlooked. I hold this space. I am no place for sleep or rest. Think of an ice cube. You cannot enter. When you look at me, you are the bed. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. That was so moving. And I'm going to ask Jane if she will read to us again, please.
So this poem, I would say, rather than about lockdown, is somewhat via lockdown. To garden. It could be a gift, at very least a consequence of last summer's disaffections. The garden was left to its own devices then. It became blurred, our plans erased. I pulled the blinds in shame against its lazy vexation. Intermittency of rain and heat meant on dry days we had darted like diving birds to the sea, skirted our patch as if it was a mistake or the council dump. You left the lawn a sponge, old shrubs merged, the remnants of the vegetable plot rose up and fell without my intervention. Imperial artichokes flowered purple threads. There were 4 small potatoes. Each weather births its nemesis. Indeed, any change casts unpredictable shadows. This Easter week, blossom snows on well-weeded gravel. I hold the listless rain responsible and wonder about the ivy cave, the view of it newly revealed by your pruning saw. How is the weather in the robin's nest, tucked high into its leaf rafters? The birds chose well, temperate. Like a cavern climate, the variable conditions hardly penetrate its steady atmosphere. A good place to store something as precious as an egg or a ring.
Thank you so much. It's great. And I'm going to call on Sarah now, please. Sarah Passingham.
Thank you. This poem was as a result of having had a conversation with a friend whose daughter was self-harming a lot, and it became sort of muddled up with the whole idea of us all buying clothes cheaply that are made from overseas at minimal wages. And it was published first of all by Ink, Sweat and Tears. It's called The Machinist, and there's a subtitle. It's Put Something of Yourself into Your Work, something we're often told when we were children. The hum and buzz of faster machines buoy her, decides brightness should be her default. She unwraps a blood-red cuff from her wrist, smooths it onto the metal bed of her Jones Imperial. Next, she reaches into the whiteness of her throat, withdraws a vocal cord. A faint twang like an E-string causes her neighbour to incline her head. She threads her needle with ease, a muscle memory from decades, places heel and toe, fore and aft, sets up the machinist's rock. Steel foot lowered, she feels the comfort of pain, lets out a sigh as she begins to stitch. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Jenny if she can read for us next, please.
Oh. Thank you. I'm going to read you a poem about my mother, or my mother's childhood. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, he had mental health issues, and eventually he had a bit of depression and had to go to psychiatric hospital when she was still a child. So I think that affected her quite a lot as a growing up, and I think this is about that, and also about our complex relationship, mother and daughter relationship. I haven't really spoken much for months. To the little girl in a village home I never met. I've never been proud of you, your bottled up self and penny saving habits. Time and again you discourage me, saying, would you stop dreaming? Only the rich could afford a hobby. Van Gogh was never famous until he died. I forgot the girl you once were, who sat all day in a dim village home, faded wallpaper, a dial knob TV, a tarpaulin bed on the veranda, thinking, today I'm going to die, but no one is even watching, because your mother had a long way to walk back, uphill at the pace of bound feet. Your father existed in your imagination across the green hills, and your ears still echoed with his instruction. Just call HSBC if you need money, and they will give you plenty. How on earth your mother escaped from Shandong to Kowloon and survived, I couldn't imagine. The day I stood in a gown at the Sheldonian, listened to all that Latin, I couldn't shrug off this girl I never met, who never finished the village primary and used to stare at the sea all day, dreaming of Australia.
Thank you so much, Jenny. That was great. Thank you. And now I'm going to welcome back Laura to the stage, please.
Hi. This is a poem I wrote for the Right Where We Are Now thing that Caroline Duffy is doing. So there's lots of poets, different poets responding to whatever this thing is called, lockdown thing. So this is called Tom Waits Half Remembered. What do we do with all these blunt, end-stopped days to stop them felling us like trees? What if we trained our ears to love their sound? If we rolled up their quiet like black velvet and slid it into the secret canals, so the scraps of sound we do hear can lie on their banks like opals slotted into the slit of the jeweler's hinged box. And then the buzz of the bees and the thud of thick magnolia petals hitting the ground would open and swell until the bees touched our fingers and we felt their fuzz brush against our skin. And when we heard a car revving in the street, we'd forget about death drumming his fingers on the dashboard and just slide in and drive off to that place in the song we half remember, where pool balls crack and eggs quiver and everyone's just driving around looking for the heart of Saturday night. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you. And I'm going to ask Anne if she'll come back and read for us again, please.
So this is a sestina, and it was inspired by Elizabeth Bishop's poem Sestina, and it's called Russian River. Russian River. September rain falls on the trees. In the failing light, the young girl walks down a path through the woods beside the great rushing river, listening to the chatter of the birds, breathing deep to calm her fears. She thinks that her pack of fears will be quietened in the presence of trees. This was foretold by the birds, who watch over the young girl, as tired she stumbles by the river, falls asleep in the depth of the woods. It is morning now, and the woods are full of stories, not fears. The rain has gone and the calming river is singing its song to the trees. Waking up, the young girl follows the path, led by the birds. Flying high above, the birds trace the contours of the woods. Looking for something unknown, the girl follows them, singing to keep her fears away. The notes rise up through the trees, dance like dragonflies on the river. The song intoxicates the river. Its melody is carried by the birds, rehearsed and echoed by the trees. It becomes an anthem in the woods. The wolf pack of fears disappears from the mind of the calm young girl. The song is unknown, but the young girl knows it in her body. She dances by the river. Her song line flows through her fearless soul. This song, a gift of the birds, is etched into her heartwood, written in the DNA of the trees. Time to free your fears, say the birds. The girl throws them like fish into the river. The woods are jeweled with berries, gold and silver trees.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask Rachel if she'll read for us again, please.
Thank you, Jenny. So the second poem I'm going to read is a response to Mary Oliver's The Swimming Lesson, and it draws on true real-life events, ones that I finally begun to process, and just wanted to put a trigger warning out there. This poem is about suicide and depression, so in case you feel like you need to click out, that's totally fine. Maybe just mute the video until I finish reading. Yeah, this is the swimming test. Now I know that how I am alive has nothing to do with any damn thing anyone knows about swimming. Now wonder no more whose knotted idea it was, who oddly remembered that medieval maxim and tossed me in, had wanted me so badly to die. Learn to swim, not knowing that for all of us, every single ragged one of me who ever came back from that Bridgen fall. So gravity is still bare, then the icy sock of Stygian Thames, cloudless night in which there is no rising when the end reaches around your life. You cough, but your arms will have been socked clean from the hit. The dogged aim is to keep your head above water and water out of your airway, and airway to last not wail but whimper, because you see land but never learned anything at all about swimming. Only how by putting off, one by goddamned one, today and every other, all dreams, all pity, all love, all grace. This, how to float in any place. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very moving. And I'm going to ask Sally if she has another poem for us. I know that you read 2 before, so let me know if you'd like to go ahead again. Sally, we couldn't hear you.
Mute.
Sally, hello. You were muted, I'm afraid. Would you mind starting again? He still is muted. Unmute. We had this problem before.
I haven't got another one.
Okay, not to worry at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks. Sorry, if we could go to Julia, please.
I'm going to read another poem from the Mother sequence. Making Mother. I am making her from wire and string. I am using anything I can find in the house. I am encanting her name as I cut and shape and glue. Carol. It became a song after she dropped the E. I am singing her back to life. Her eyes are buttons. Her hair is string and strips of polystyrene. Her mouth is a plastic milk bottle lid, red as a late summer rose. She hefts herself up out of the junk and walks towards me. I keep on chanting, keep on singing. She holds her hands out, pleading. Her arms are lolly sticks and her hands are corks. Her fingers pearly-headed pins. Her body is a pizza cut from a box lid. Her legs are toilet roll tubes and her feet are large round pebbles from the garden. She shuffles towards me and I can't turn away. I sing her name out, Carol, Carol. The sunlight moves across the window and lights up her face.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was a great note to, as we're drawing to the end of the evening. I've enjoyed this immensely. I hope that others have done as well. And I'm very grateful to you for taking part. I'm just going to close with one of my own poems, which is recently published on Wild Court, and it's called Water Infection. Water infection. I was still small, clutching 2 hot water bottles like balloons, pain radiating into my shoulders in purple spokes and nervy polygons. They called it a water infection. I thought of the sea. Plucked sounds tremored deep in the piano that no one had touched. I couldn't understand how the back of my neck hurt. You will when you grow up, said my mother, mumbling something about pleasure I couldn't understand. So that just leaves me to say the biggest thank you to everybody who's been part of this evening, to Sue, Helen, Jane, Sarah, Jenny, Laura, Anne, Rachel, Sally and Julia. Very grateful to you guys and everybody who's watched us on YouTube as well. Hope it's been an enjoyable evening and I wish you well the rest of lockdown.
Website and Twitter.
Oh yes, the video is staying up on YouTube and links will also be on my website and my Twitter account to take you there if you have any difficulty finding it through YouTube. So thank you. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm going to take off the live tube link now.